We've always been obsessed with flying, right? It's this ultimate symbol of freedom, of breaking free from our limits. Today, we're going to dive into two incredible stories about flight, and they both explore this dream from totally different angles. One's from the edge of a cliff, and the other, well, that one's from the heart of a monster storm.
So let me ask you something straight up. What are you most afraid of? Seriously, maybe it's heights, maybe it's the unknown, or maybe it's just the fear of failure. We all have that one thing, that little voice in your head that whispers, "Nope, you can't do this." Well, our first story today, it's all about that voice.
So, let's meet our first protagonist. For this young seagull, his greatest fear was the one thing he was literally born to do: fly. Can you imagine that? A creature of the air, completely terrified of the sky. I mean, that's the perfect setup for a huge battle against your own nature. And yeah, that brings us right into our first story. This isn't a fight against some big enemy outside. Nope, this battle is fought entirely inside the mind of one very, very frightened bird. Okay, so picture the scene. This young seagull is all by himself on a rocky ledge. The day before, his two brothers and his sister, who, by the way, had even shorter wings than him, they'd already taken the leap and flown away. He's been left behind, just watching his family master the skies, while he's basically a prisoner of his own fear. And this really gets to the heart of his fear. This wasn't just a case of, being a little nervous. No way. The story tells us he was absolutely certain his wings would fail him. That's a profound crisis of self-belief, right? He looks down at this massive expanse of sea below and is just convinced that he cannot survive the fall. So how does his family react to this? Not with gentle encouragement, that's for sure. They go straight for some serious, tough love. They're circling him, calling out to him, taunting him for his cowardice, and they even threaten to let him starve on that ledge if he doesn't just fly. They know he needs a push, and man, they are not afraid to give it. The story uses a really specific word to describe what they're doing: upbraiding. Now, this isn't just criticism. It means to scold someone angrily. That one word just brilliantly shows you the family's frustration and the incredible intensity of the pressure he's under. They're not just encouraging him, they are demanding he face this fear. So you have this intense pressure combined with a growing desperation, and all of that sets the stage for the story's climax, the first plunge. Get this. He's been alone on that ledge, starving, for a full 24 hours. Then, he sees his mother on a cliff across the way. She's tearing at a piece of fish, and the sight of that food, as the story says, maddened him. His hunger just becomes this overwhelming primal force that takes over everything. And here's where his mom gets clever. She flies towards him with the fish, but then she just stops, hovering just out of his reach. It's a brilliant trick. See, he doesn't finally muster up his courage or have some big change of heart. He's just driven by pure, uncontrollable hunger, and he dives for the food, forgetting to be afraid for just one split second. The moment he dives, that fear comes rushing back with a vengeance. A monster's terror grips him. He's falling outwards and downwards into empty space, and for a moment, he's just paralyzed by pure panic. He didn't fly. He fell. But then, in that terrifying moment of freefall, something happens. His instincts just kicked in. The very wings he was so sure would fail him spread outwards, all by themselves. He feels the wind rushing against his feathers, under his stomach, and suddenly, he's not falling anymore. He's soaring. He flaps his wings, starts to rise upwards, and in that incredible moment, he completely forgets he'd ever been afraid. Okay, so let's leave that sun-drenched cliff behind and jump into something totally different. Now we're in the cockpit of an airplane in the dead of night. Our second story completely shifts gears from an internal battle with fear to an external battle for survival against the raw fury of nature. So, this pilot's journey starts out perfectly. It's 1:30 in the morning, the sky is clear, the moon is out. He's flying his Dakota airplane over France, just dreaming about a big English breakfast with his family. But then, reality hits. Hard. He flies into storm clouds that look like black mountains, and suddenly, his compass and radio go completely dead. He is utterly and completely lost. Now, unlike the seagull, who was kind of tricked into his first flight, this pilot makes a conscious choice. He sees the storm clouds ahead. He knows he should probably turn back to Paris. But that desire to get home is just too strong. He thinks to himself, I'll take the risk, and flies his old plane straight into the storm.
So he's lost, flying blind, with failing equipment. He's in a truly desperate situation. And that's when something totally inexplicable happens. This is the story of a phantom guide, an unexplained rescue from the heart of the storm. Out of the pitch-black clouds, another airplane just appears, right next to him. But this is no ordinary plane. It has no lights on its wings, which is terrifyingly dangerous in a storm at night. But there it is. He can even see the other pilot's face turn towards him.
The mysterious pilot lifts one hand, waves, and gestures for him to follow. No words, no radio contact, but the message is crystal clear. Our pilot, who is desperate and totally lost, decides to trust this strange guide, following him like an obedient child right through the storm. After what was probably the longest half hour of his life, he suddenly breaks through the clouds and sees the lights of a runway. He's safe. He lands, and the first thing he does is turn to look for the pilot who saved him to thank him. But the sky is empty. The black aeroplane has vanished without a trace. So he rushes into the control tower and asks the woman there about the other plane. And her reply is just chilling. She looks at him strangely and says that no other airplanes were flying in that storm. His was the only one on the radar. And that leaves us with the story's central, haunting question. Who was this pilot? Where did he come from? And where did he go? The story offers us absolutely no answers, leaving us just suspended in the mystery. So we have two very different stories, one about a bird, one about a man, one about internal fear, the other about an external storm. But when you really put them side by side, you start to see that they're both about the same fundamental journey. Let's break it down. The seagull fights his own mind, while the pilot fights the weather. The seagull is motivated by a primal need, hunger, and is saved by his mother's clever trick. The pilot is motivated by a desire to get home and is saved by this completely mysterious phantom. So one story ends with self-mastery, while the other ends with a big, unsolved mystery. So what can we take away from all this? Ultimately, both stories are asking the same fundamental question. When we're at our breaking point, facing our greatest fear or an impossible challenge, what gets us through? Is it something inside of us, an instinct, a hidden strength we never knew we had? Or is it something else, a mysterious helping hand reaching out from the storm? What do you think?